Hello, everybody. This is Jason Jimenez with the Bold Saviors, making the impossible possible in business. And today we have a very dear friend by the name of Jen Halpern, and with Soft Sell Coaching. And I am truly happy to introduce you to her. She's an incredible woman. She's an incredible professional and someone that I believe you are going to learn a lot from today, especially the journey that she has lived, because it's one that I think is very admirable and one that I want to be able to share with you. So, Jen, thank you so much for being here. Meet the world.
Thank you for inviting me, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Jen, if you wouldn't mind, for the people who don't know who you are, who are you? What are you up to? What are you doing nowadays?
I'll start with something that is very exciting for me right now. My business has moved into a new level, and this is not a bragging moment. I'm so grateful and filled with gratitude, and it's a message of stay strong to who you are and what you want to accomplish in order to do so. So my business is at a new level where with my current clients, I am now moving into, for example, coaching a lot more people within an organization than I have before. And that is very exciting for me. So that's something exciting that I'm working on.
That's awesome. And
that's what I'm up to.
And so what does Soft Sell Coaching do?
So the name is intentional because I believe the soft skills are a huge gap in leadership in corporate America. Focusing on soft skills, specifically between executive leadership, sales leaders, for example, and their sales teams, or any executive leader with their employees, when there is inherent trust that is demonstrated consistently with tactics and with awareness, employees perform better. Sellers get closer to achieving and exceeding their numbers. And that moves the company revenue up and to the right, period, end of story. So that is what I do, is I am a leadership coach, sales leadership coach, executive leadership coach.
Got it. So we're talking about companies who already have a sales team of some sort with some form of management?
Exactly. So I am not what is known as a fractional VP of sales. That is a person who is could be responsible for the number, for the reporting, the dashboarding, documenting in CRM, for account and deal management and structure and closing. No, I'm focusing on the soft skills. I think that's what's missing.
With the individual.
With the individuals.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it. So did Jen at the age of 5 says, hey, I'm going to be a salesman for the rest of my life?
So interestingly enough, that's not too far off from the truth. And I'll tell you for 2 reasons. Number one, my mom, for my formative years, 0 through age 11, she taught honors English and Spanish in high school. So she was always very driven with the details around how you communicate, the words that you use, the pace and energy in which you speak. And she was bilingual, which she never taught me Spanish. I could learn it on my own. But after that, she took her skills and then went to be, I'm going to say she was just a badass sales queen for Channel 45 in San Antonio, Texas. And she was a sales rep there for a decade and a half and was the top sales rep for over 50% of her time there. Even earned a commission on one account that paid for my entire wedding.
Wow.
So sales DNA combined with the art of communication is something I grew up with. That's my mom over here. And then my grandfather, her mom. And this man never met a stranger, whether you're waiting in line at the deli, at the grocery store, or pumping gas, or at a social event. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up watching these 2 very influential people in my life and discovered, lo and behold, that DNA is in my genes as well.
How old were you then? Then all of this started evolving and you realized, this is what my mom does and this is what whoever was in your life.
Yeah. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to work at Haagen-Dazs for a summer, and I realized I was selling a lot of ice cream. I was selling more ice cream than my buddies. I was also eating more ice cream, which ultimately got me fired because the manager said, help yourself to ice cream. I took that to the next level. I took home pints of ice cream. Well, he never clarified how much, and I didn't ask. But that's an aside. But I started noticing people would people are typically very happy when they're in an ice cream shop, and I was able to just sell the heck out of the ice cream. So that was kind of an aha moment.
And so, one, it's funny because when you said that, I went back to my first job. It was at Pizza Hut. I was a cook, and I would always bring back barbecue pizza. And it was just until I just couldn't anymore. I can't eat it anymore. By the way,
You OD'd. Yeah, I get
big
it.
time. Did you, when you were describing about your mother and her journey and what she did and what she's accomplished, and some of your relatives that were also in the space, did you realize, or do you see yourself being trained at that time because you were exposed to it?
So that's an interesting question. I think it's twofold. I think it's growing up submersed in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So there's like an innate talent that was within me that was honed naturally. And then going through the motions of going to college and completing a degree and going through the process of job interviewing, getting your first job. But then primarily, this is huge. The overarching theme today when I think about that question is thousands of epic mistakes and some epic successes that lead to experience that leads to wisdom. So plus training, you go through periods where you go to all the sales trainings and sales conferences and all the things. But I think it's all the fails and all this and some successes that lead to being good at your craft, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being in sales, I think that, I think there's an element of curiosity that is always part of it, right? Did you find yourself as you were in your early teens going into graduating school and always curious in learning the art of communicating and the art of sales, or was that different for you?
Absolutely not. It's one of the reasons that I teach leaders how to be better leaders, because in 21 years in corporate America, and these are authentic numbers, 21 years in corporate, I had 18 managers, 18 bosses. So do the math. My first year as a sales rep, I had a different sales manager every single quarter.
Wow.
So I began to think a combination of what the hell is going on here, and maybe this is normal. So you're constantly adapting to the way leaders are leading, and then I observed and did the exact same thing. I would then behave the way they all behaved when I was promoted into management and leadership, without recognizing the importance and not having the skills to pause and question and say, am I doing this just because my current or previous boss did this? Is this the right thing to do for this particular scenario at this particular moment?
Yeah.
Are there different ways? And that took a lot of fails, headbanging, understanding the definition of insanity, right? I keep doing the same things. Why am I not getting a different result? Until finally you have some sort of epic aha moment or experience that made me pause. It was a gift of pause and reevaluation. Yeah.
What did you go to school for?
My major is business and my minor is communications.
Okay, got it. And so,
I had to think about that. So
just yesterday,
in my mind.
what would you say would be that takeaway that from school that you still apply, or that at least does it apply?
Such a great question. So when I was in positions where I was hiring and firing and reviewing resumes, I learned to look for, is there a college degree and completion, simply as a data point? Because I think today, I probably turned down some really exceptional candidates because I was told, if this is the company policy, they must have a college degree, as opposed to, here's what I believe is going to be a spectacular candidate, and all they're missing under our policy is a college degree. Can we talk about that? Instead, because I was young and didn't know how to navigate up, I would just put that aside. It's an experience. I think having experiences, another probably more valuable experience is after high school. People are mandated to go somewhere and do something for 1 year.
Yeah.
And then maybe go to school or not, but just go travel.
Yeah.
Go serve, go learn a new language, go work somewhere that you would never consider working, to have those experiences. I think that's more important.
Yeah. I totally agree with you.
Cool.
Where was your first sales role outside of college?
So my first role was at a company called Pentasafe. Hello, Pentasafers. This was we go way back.
He's had a lover personality.
It's I know some of you are going to watch. I was hired in October of 1999. I think my first day was Halloween, and the company is now evolved from what was then Pentasafe to multiple acquisitions. I think today it's been absorbed by Micro Focus, but it went through a ton of mergers and acquisitions. But it was software sales. That's my whole background in corporate America is in tech or SaaS specifically.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because you landed there, or because that was like what you wanted?
Oh God, no, I had no idea what I wanted. I landed there because there were some people that I thought were super neat and cool and saw them being successful that worked there. And I was like, get me in. I want to get in. I want to check this thing out. And that's how. There's a dear friend. I haven't talked to her in, I don't know, maybe a decade, Janet Dial. I'm going to call you out, girl, who was super instrumental to coaching me back then on how to show up, how to interview, why software. I mean, the software it's not something that I was passionate about, but that culture was very cool, and it was growing, and it was groundbreaking, and all the things. So
2 questions around that.
Sure.
You defined that, well, at least I got the impression that you did not necessarily go through the standard interview process. And so I want to kind of dive into that of like, how'd you get that, right? And it sounded like it's because I knew someone and someone helped me get in, but also they knew the value that I brought. And then the other part that I caught on what you just said is that the culture. And talk to me about after you share the story, but I want to dive into the culture in a second. So I'll just put that on pause.
Okay. So, yes, Janet was instrumental in getting me in for an interview with the then VP of sales, Jim Legg. What's up, Jim? He's now retired. And they, right before I interviewed, they had stopped hiring because they were completely full. Mm-hmm. And I said, so what, now what? And I did a couple things. I would not coach my kids or other people to do this. However, it was meaningful, impactful at the time. So I went in and they said, thank you, no thank you, we're not hiring. And then I go back in a month later, thank you, we're only now hiring people with previous software sales experience. So then I just stopped by a few times. And the last time I stopped by, I walked right past the executive assistant and I went right into Jim's office. And that's not something I would recommend because that could be a career limiting move. But at that time with those humans, it worked out very well in my favor. And Jim said to me, all right, look, you clearly show persistence, which is key in sales, and curiosity. Like, why not me? Why not now? So he said, I'm going to let you interview with my then 4 sales managers. Don't know what team you may land on. If it's unanimous, we're going to give you a shot. If one person or more says no, you have to promise you will never come here again.
I love that.
I said, you got a deal. And they hired me. And I was with them in multiple iterations for 13 years.
So as long as I've known you, and we met through mutual friends, you have always been, the moment I put my own on it, I'm getting it. Like nothing's stopping you, right? So that makes complete sense. And love it.
Thank you.
The culture. So it wasn't just the people, but it was the culture and the environment. What was it that attracted you?
So I was in my late 20s and there was a lot of fun to be had. So we were the employee base, including the sales teams, were predominantly younger, and there was a lot of camaraderie, a lot of fun, and a lot of partying. Like on Fridays, our then CEO it was like Keg Friday. I remember lots of kegs. I remember a lot of food, a lot of lunch and learns with really good free food. And the way to a successful outcome is often through one's stomach.
Yeah.
So, but it was the people, it was the atmosphere, it was the excitement. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I'm pardon me real quick. There are 3 people that came to mind that are still very, very important parts of my life. One of them was here at your home recently, and we met all those years ago at Pentasafe together. So relationships. Also. Yeah.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like one experience gave you some very important, if you will, information, data, wisdom that you still now apply and share within your coaching and within the things that you share with your clients, simply because it's not just about selling a product. It's not just about knowing the product, but it's also understanding the why and the people that surround you. So give me some perspective between that and everything you've experienced. Where are you pulling from?
I think it is very important to understand the value to the person around the product or service that you provide, that you sell, but really that you solve to, or that you serve, or that you help with.
Yeah.
Like to just take out the word sell. And you've got to really clearly, repeatedly understand what's important to the person in front of you. It's not about me. Yes, maybe I have a quota. Yes, I've got a corporate goal. I've got a number. I've got people to lead. But it's about the person in front of me that I'm speaking to. Why is it important to them? And what is my way of being such that I am building trust between me and you, my potential buyer, for not a transactional relationship, but I want you long term. If we can know, like, and trust each other, you're much likelier to buy from me repeatedly and become a raving fan. And I would ask you to tell your friends, and I would ask you for intentional referrals, and I would offer, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
How can I help you? Who do you want to meet? So it's very different than when I was first in sales, and it was pound the phones.
Yep.
It was a long time ago. Smile and dial. We barely had email. We used hard, large physical phones. And it was, somebody answered, and you just start vomiting and premature pitching. And no, it's a very different environment, atmosphere, game today. Yeah.
So dialing by numbers and dialing phones and hundreds and whatnot, has always been, I've always viewed it as a rite of passage, but it was also one of those things that, as when I was doing that years ago in the realm of insurance, I was taught by a mentor, aren't you tired of that? And he said to me, at what point in time, when are you going to start asking yourself the question that there must be another way or an alternative way? And I started asking the question. I was like, wondering, like, what is he talking about? It's like, this is working. And it wasn't around the perspective that it was a wrong way. But it did teach me to be thicker on the no's or the rejections. But it also gave me the perspective of understanding how to adjust and pivot so that I don't repeat what didn't work. Right? So there was those elements.
Nice.
My question comes from the perspective of, do you think people still need to do that today? And if so, why?
If they still need to be able to pivot quickly, to shift?
Well, more on the perspective of, should they be making cold calls?
Oh, Absolutely, in my opinion. Now, if you go online, you're going to get just as many arguments and data in favor as well as against. In my opinion, maximizing all communication modes often is going to give you a higher success rate, period. Even when it's accidental. I pick up the phone. Typically, how many people pick up the phone if it's an unknown or if it's spam, right? Is spam our best friends, right? They call all the time. But,
I'm with them.
That's awesome. I want to hear about that. But occasionally, whether it's intentional or not, you're going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a cold call. And that person has about 8 seconds to capture your attention. So what can they say to immediately bring me value such that I'm going to lean in and stop the 5 things I'm doing simultaneously to give you a little bit of my focus? And then what are you going to do with me when you got me?
Yeah.
Or am I going to end up being like, look, let's turn this into a coaching conversation. Here's what I recommend you do different next time. But I am a fan of maximizing the resources that are available to you. At your point about rejection, it's not personal.
Yeah.
It's not personal. And it's an opportunity to look in the mirror and be like, okay, today I made 70 calls. 4 people answered. 2 hung up on me. I had 1 conversation that turned into an appointment. What can I do differently to make 3 more calls tomorrow? And it's a grind. It is not easy. It is, like you mentioned, it's not for the faint of heart. It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So software sales, you were at this particular location. What was next in your journey?
So I was there at that company for 13 years. Then I left there as a senior manager, and then I moved to be a director of sales at another company. Stayed there for a couple years. Did that again as a senior director, and then finally exited as a VP of sales for a software company. And I probably overstayed corporate, I don't know, by 3 to 5 years maybe.
Okay.
And I had no idea how lucky I was as I began to realize this time, my CEO and I, who's an amazing human, we were not aligned on some fundamental things. And so it was time to move on. And at that same time, I had a previous boss basically reach out, hit me up and say, what are the chances that you have bandwidth to help me with some sales training? And I said, I do indeed. So I didn't know at the time when I left corporate and started soft sell coaching, I had a paying client and I had no idea. Moving into the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur's journey space, that's big. So I don't know why I'm going down this path, and I forgot your question.
No, it's
So there
perfect,
you go.
actually. It's perfect because first of all, it's your journey, right? So my job at the end of the day right now is I am completely in curiosity because I want to know not only my friend, but I want our audience to know who you are.
Thank you.
And the beauty in everything that you do for the people that I know that you serve, right? And so, so with what you just said is, did you ever had any wish of being an entrepreneur? First of all, was that even in the cards?
Not a lick. I thought when I entered corporate America as a seller that this was my path till the day I die or retire.
Yeah.
I was intentional about climbing the corporate ladder. I loved the...
CEO?
Absolutely. Queen of the internets. VP of the world. I mean, I wanted to go high and big and wide. And I really valued the security, because is there security in a sales role? Maybe. I don't know. It's a good debate. But I valued the security of the resources of corporate America, of a salary, of on-target earnings, of unlimited commission, no cap, of resources around you to help you achieve. Those were things that were very important to me. But at the same time, I'd had so many leaders that I reported to, from neutral to bad to toxic, that it was wearing me down.
Yeah.
And I I had 3 amazing leaders, and I'm still in touch with all 3 of them today. It was wearing me down. And one thing I do want to share is that was just a really pivotal aha moment when I was VP of sales and thought I was there. This is the next boom, boom, boom. And it was my daughter, Jordan, who said to me one night when I came home, this is before COVID, and this was a on-site 5 days a week sales gig. And I was driving from north of town into downtown. So it was a good hour and change with no traffic. And one night I came home and my baby girl, Jordan, said, you say you love your job over here, but you come home mad every night. Why do you come home mad every night? And that was like full stop, pause, a hug and a punch moment. What is up? What am I missing? What's she seeing, this wise 12-year-old that I'm clueless to? And that's what...
No filter, right?
Yeah, none.
And one of the things about kids that I absolutely love, like I've had 2 times in my life, in let's say the last 2 years, my 8-year-old talking to me like an adult, and I'm like, yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Isn't it beautiful?
That is a gift.
Yeah.
That is a moment that hopefully you were curious and you were receiving.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So you had a moment of a taste of of applying all of the wisdom and skills that you've learned, someone acknowledging it and saying, hey, would you mind coaching? Did it still at that moment realize, okay, wait a minute, I could do this full time?
So I've always been a natural coach. So whether it's with me and peers or I'm in a leadership role with people that report to me.
Yeah.
Coaching, in my opinion, I've played sports. The leaders of sports teams, not the captains, are coaches, in my opinion. There's always coaches to push you forward and tell you when you're screwing up and help course correct. And the way they show up and how they show up and how they communicate is critical to how the person receives it. So coaching has always been very much an important part. Yes, let's coach in a selling world. Let's coach to the account, the deal, those individuals. But in my opinion, more importantly, let's coach you consistently on your will and your skill so that you believe that I am personally invested in your success. And when that relationship is there, you are going to perform better. I see it client after client after client. And the more I dove into this works, and when I am reporting to a leader that thinks that is not a good use of time, that is an inherent disconnect that was like an energy suck for me and would deplete me. And that was part of why I stayed in corporate a few years longer than that was probably healthy for me. So the coaching, that was an easy transition.
So do you recall the day you said, today's the day?
Yes, it was just a few days. Things were coming to a challenge between me and my then boss, the CEO. And in that same period of time, that's when Jordan made that comment and asked me the question. And this is like, how many more signs do you need, Jen? And that's when I said, let's go. Give me an exit. I want out. You want me out. Let's make it happen. And then boom.
So how did the soft sell coaching, has it always been soft sell coaching?
The name?
The name?
That has always been the name. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And do you find it as being a missing across the different verticals and industries that soft selling or that skill is a missing?
100%. And a lot of I don't care what your role is, whether operations, revenue operations, you're the CEO, you're over sales, you're over marketing, you're over finance, all the things. I think that it takes it's like a new muscle to learn to be aware of beyond yourself. Like you don't go to the gym on day one and bust out 50 push-ups and 50 pull-ups. Just maybe you do, but you're that unicorn. It takes practice and discipline. It's like authentic and active listening.
Yeah.
It takes practice, practice, practice. And I think that is a skill that all humans need and can improve upon and see the benefits. My business coach just shared this with me. Mary Kay Ash, who's the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, she has got a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that she says, picture every human being that you talk with, imagine they have a sign hanging around their neck that says, see me, hear me. I need to be seen and heard. I think all human beings, we are desperate to be seen and heard and made to feel important.
Yeah.
And you see it when you start looking at that through that lens.
Yeah.
And I think that's missing in all leaders. I shouldn't say all leaders because I don't know all leaders. In my world, it is a consistent thing that is missing. And the challenge and the gift is to find the leaders that either have some awareness and want to lean into that, or they know that something is off and amiss and they got to get better somehow. So some kind of non-ego.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's not about you, it's about the person speaking.
Yes.
Right? We talk about that all the time in our community.
All the time.
It hasn't always been phenomenal. There's been some moments of triumph and excitement and everything. And yet I would assume, just like any other human being, in your journey, your professional journey, there's been some difficult moments. And in this segment of the conversation, I'd love to talk about, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what was a difficult moment in your time, in your professional realm? What happened? And the first question is, who as individuals helped you get through it?
Yeah.
And what did you learn from that conversation?
How much time is our podcast today? I mean, like 15 examples of just epic fails and mistakes, both from a stupid mistake to just not knowing and not realizing the importance of asking other people before you take an action. There are probably a dozen things that I want to find one that was a dozen that were big and so many lessons learned. So one of those in particular, I was a director of sales and we were in a leadership team meeting. There were 6 other leaders with the VP of sales, and we're in a weekly leadership team meeting. And the VP of sales called one of my peers an effing idiot and was not joking about it. And also picked up a pen and tossed it at their forehead. And it wasn't comedy. And it was, you could hear a pin drop. My memory is like it lasted 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It may have just been a second or two. And nobody said a word. I didn't say a word. I remember thinking, this is not okay. Do I go to HR? Do I not go to HR? Do I tell my boss's boss? Is that a career limiting move for me? What are the options? And I chose to do nothing and say nothing. And that still triggers my belly. Maybe there was nothing I could have done. Maybe there was something I could have done. Sure. I will never know. Except that today, if I'm in that situation, I would stand up and say something. I don't know if it would be in that moment or what that would look like or sound like, but that's not okay.
What's interesting about what you're sharing, first of all, a powerful moment, but that's also very correlatable to society. When you see someone getting bullied, someone doing injury to others, when probably not provoked. And I think that's an element that's an element that we should all really consider is we have to stand for each other.
Yeah. If you see something, say something. Figure out who to talk to and get guidance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel compelled to share something else that I still carry with me because I've not been able to find this person. But years and years ago, when I was a new manager, there was a seller on my team. And I thought that they were very technical. They were engineer minded. And I did not believe that they would be successful as a seller on my team. And so I pushed them to go into either development, product marketing, or into the training side of the business. And they begged and pleaded to give them a shot, give them a year, let them prove, because while they had this technical aptitude and this and that, they were really excited about selling and being on this company and being on my team and all the things. And I dug my heels in and I said nope. And I went to bat for her to find her a different position because she was an excellent employee. So it wasn't a case of removing her for performance. It was not on my team. And then it became a challenge to find her a place. Fast forward, I think today, I haven't kept up in many years, but what I last tuned in, she was a VP of corporate training at a big software company. I don't know where she landed today, but that's my memory of when I last looked her up. But so many mistakes of how poorly handled, because I was scared to say, you know what? I could be wrong. Let's pull back. Yeah. Let's just shift. Let's even erase and start fresh. You got a year. How can I support you?
We're all human.
Completely different. Yeah. Terrible way that I tried to squash her dreams of being a seller because I know better that really sales is not for you. I am not all knowing. Anyway, so lots of lessons like that.
For sure. And so you had people that either confided in you, helped you, called you out maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And yet at the same time, people in our lives are critical and important. But sometimes we have tools or resources that we actually have to grab a hold or create or really embrace in order to get us through it. Was there any of that?
Exercise is always my go-to. So is eating. So it depends on my mindset.
Yeah.
So that's just complete opening the kimono, right? Stress eating. But when I'm in a good, healthy mental place, it's exercise. And it always has been, whether it's walking and jogging outside or going to a gym. I love pumping iron. And it's a way to really get out aggression.
Yep.
Which I wish I was doing it 15, 20 years ago. I would have been less aggressive to other humans versus taking it on the machines. But definitely being grounded with exercise, being surrounded with positive humans that lift you up, not tolerate you, but you support you. Very, very important. People that are energy suck, I wouldn't necessarily say cut them out, but maybe move away from.
So you're bringing up something that I think that is a real thing in the sense that individuals that are in full-time sales, like that's their life, it's a stressful environment. And I don't think people realize that, or at least people that are not sales-driven or sales roles, know that there's a lot of pressure in that. So how do you handle that? And how do you coach around that? Because we have someone that we report to, and it's not just our boss, but sometimes we have our spouses and our children that depend on us to make sure that we hit our numbers and do what we do. Mm-hmm. So how do you coach around that?
I think it's funny. Today, one thing I coach all my clients on is the importance of knowing large and small details for all of your direct reports and their families so that you can take an active interest. Jason, how did Nico do in the game last week? Jason, now I'm forgetting the name of your daughter's name. Vianney. How was her experience in Argentina? When's she going to Spain? And just even paying attention to a very small detail can have a very big impact on our relationship.
Yeah.
The more trust and loyalty we have, open communication, the better we're both going to perform for each other. And part of that is, what's your outlet? Why are you in sales? What are your goals this quarter? Because maybe this quarter you're a business development rep and you just got your first apartment, but next quarter you're going to be engaged and be looking for a house.
Yeah.
You know, what is your life path? What are your intrinsic and extrinsic, internal and external goals? It's critical that leaders take the time to invest. Like, profit over people, not interested. But if you're people first, then comes profit, that's my jam. And it's on leaders to understand that, which includes, how do you manage stress?
So how do you get across because we have some individuals that are entrepreneurial that say, I want to take care of my team so that the team can take care of what's important to them so that I am taken care of without sounding like, look, I need you to do your job because I need you to help me build something. But yet I'm trying to help you so you can build something for yourself and not just be one-sided or feel one-sided.
It's communication. And it's Jason, you're coming in my office or whatever on Zoom. We're having a one-on-one, and maybe it's going to be a difficult conversation. It's setting that tone right away. Hey, this is likely going to be a difficult or uncomfortable conversation, and I want it to be collaborative. So I'm going to go first, and then I want to hear, what are you thinking and feeling based on what you heard? And then we open it up. It's everything is communication. It's the words. There's wisdom in the words, and there's weapon in the words. It's the words that we use, and it's the pace and energy and cadence in which we speak that makes or breaks everything, in my opinion. Because it is. If I'm the head of sales, I've got a North American number or whatever. I've got a regional number, and I need all of you guys to help me get there. But I've got to help you get there. It's got to be both and that's communication. If it's one-sided and you're not doing your numbers, that's not the right way to approach. There may be a time and place to have those difficult conversations, which can lead to documentation and performance improvement plan and blah, blah, blah. But you got to have open, consistent communication, which is why coaching to the will and the skill of your humans is so important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You get out in front of all that BS and surprises, and you be human, and you get loyalty, and guess what? People perform better.
You are someone of high standards, and everything that in every conversation we've always talked about, there's a level of standards of expectation, not only of what you deliver, what you put together, but what you want people to receive.
Thank you.
With that said, how do you get that from your team? Because
tell me,
sometimes it's not the same. So how do you either get them to move up, or do you move down to get, what is it? How does it work?
I think it depends on the person that you're speaking to, because I will learn what motivates Jason and why, and I'm going to learn what motivates Max and why. And they may be aligned or they may be distinctly different. You may be just coin operated, but he may be all about prestige, good job, quarterly lunch with the CEO. It's on me to understand what motivates you, and it's on me as the leader or the coach to teach leaders how to meet you where you are, and versus expecting my whole team, which I did that for a decade, hiring mini-me's, thinking that was the answer. So many delicious mistakes that lead to experience and then wisdom. It's on leader to understand what motivates each person. Now, if you are what I call a B player, I'm going to invest in you because I can probably, if you want, we can get you to an A player. If you're a D player, you may not want to get to a C player, etc. Then maybe you're not the right fit in this moment.
Yeah.
That's also on both of us to determine.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're just missing your numbers or you don't get it, I mean, there's different. So it's on the leader to really understand, which I teach coaches, how to invest in your people.
Okay.
To figure that out.
Got it. When is it, what's an ideal client for you right now? Because you just, at the beginning, you mentioned that you have now moved and started creating something new based on everything and where you are in your life, in your career. You've now expanded, you're more intentional with what you're built.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Fearlessness. So 2025 goal for Jen Halpern and soft sell coaching is to continue stepping forward with fearlessness, especially when I see and feel the fear and I get triggered right in my belly. There it is. I'm going to acknowledge it and maybe welcome it. Say, hey, fear. And you're getting in the back seat because I'm driving this bus.
Yeah.
And just keep going forward. Fear leads to scarcity mindset, leads to victim, leads to stagnation. It's toxic. So being fearless, moving forward with fearless. And I'll just share, years and years ago, someone who I admire and respect hugely, I asked him, I said, give me 5 words or less. Why are you successful? And he said, anything that comes my way, I got it. I may not know how to do it, but I got the confidence to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that has always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a level of integrity in that.
Thank you. When do you get to be interviewed? I want to interview you for your own podcast. Can we do that sometime?
Absolutely, we could.
Okay. Because this is intentionally one-sided, which I love and respect, but it would also be great for your community, our community, to hear these same things.
Ask me a question.
Why, 2 things. Why is this podcast called The Bold Saviors? And why is Jason Jimenez doing a podcast now?
Yeah. So it's called The Bold Saviors because what you do, what I do, is extremely bold in leaping into entrepreneurship.
Love it.
It is sacrificing everything that we are for the ability to not sacrifice later, while acknowledging that everyone that comes in our lives, you are responsible for.
Whew.
And there's a story behind all the trials and tribulations. There's a story in the journeys that I am so committed in understanding because I'm a student of those journeys so that I have the ability to learn from you and from my guests. I want to be able to capture the moments to be able to understand what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
But why? I want to be able to commit to the ability for the individual audiences to be able to look at it and look at this and say, you know, I didn't know that was possible. And I now know and have a direction. I'm going through this right now and I have no idea what to do. I'm in this shady, fogged area and I now know who to ask. I know where to get the answer. And I know where at least can give me direction.
Yeah.
And the last reason is because of the fact that I want the people that watch and participate within this podcast is the ability to understand that some of us have yet to experience some of these moments.
Yeah.
And I want to be an outlet, a conduit for them to be able to know that there's an avenue where you can search, get the answer, or you'll meet the person and hear their story and be able to reach out and say, hey, Jen, I need your help. And that's why I created the podcast. Why now? So I originally, during the pandemic, I was part of a community where I first originated Landing Big Wells. And in the podcast, in the pandemic, what I ended up doing was got involved with a community through a social audio app called Clubhouse. And in Clubhouse, it was a platform literally about you get into this particular room and all you did was just talk about and give answers and give feedback and you get to meet people around the world. And fortunately, I landed in a particular room. It was all about business, which is where I get all my energy from and I love. And I was able to share me. And people resonated with what I had to share.
Yeah.
I grew a community. And within that community, someone came to me and said, hey, you talk about this and that and this and that. And what's it like? I feel like it's a product. I'm like, yeah, it's called the spiderweb effect. And then he said to me, why don't you share this in a more structured format? And that triggered a conversation that literally happened about 2 days later with an individual by the name of Heather. And she was teaching how to put together a podcast, all the intricacies and all these things like that. And I took it on. And she gave me the roadmap of having the confidence of even as confident as I am, and I know who I am, and I love who I am. And yet I'm still human, and I still doubt, am I needed, good enough? Is it worthy enough? Do I have the thing?
The mind trash.
Totally. And she gave me the opportunity of giving me the confidence of eliminating the fear, because she gave me the tools, the resources, and the knowledge to say, oh, that's not too hard. That was in 2001.
Okay.
Stopped it just simply because life got in the way. And it was like, I'll get to it. But then that list, as we always have, you knock it out and it's still there. It's like, okay, I'll get to it. And then things keep coming in and pushed off. It wasn't until about 6 months ago, I had a very dear friend of mine say, hey, whatever happened to that podcast?
Accountability. Yes.
This individual is in my, as you already know, we have the Dunbar theory.
Okay.
And he's in my top 150. He's in my top 20. And he said, may I make a request? I'm like, sure. It's like, you need to get this done in 60 days.
Oh, nice.
And that is where, in that realm, about a week later, I had met Max, because someone asked me to be on their podcast, on their interview. And I met Max, and it was like, we connected like instantaneously. I then met with him, I think, a week later. And here we are. And I said, this
Show
is
your
what I'm up
face.
to.
Just kidding. You don't have to. I know. You're behind the scenes guy. That's awesome.
And so that's how it started, because somebody stood up for me and knew what was important to me, knew what I was committed to, and I was limiting myself. And here we are. And I'm having a blast.
Amazing.
And I'm learning so much. And I am wanting to just be a conduit for others to be able to know what people are up to, understand why they do it and how they do it, because they're missing, no different than the soft sell coaching, is that it's not just the act of, but it's the why. And it's understanding the why so that the action can be no different than the correlation of faith. Faith takes two things. It's the belief, and it cannot be done, and faith cannot be present without action.
Yeah.
And so
I
that's
love
the reason
that.
why.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I love how when you talk, certain words trigger tears in your eyes, which just shows the authentic passion. So that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I love the name of Bold Saviors. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, all that said, what's next for you?
Continuing to push myself out of my comfort zone, because that's where the growth is. And what that may look like, I want to continue to grow my business, not interested in growing as in needing to add employees, but continuing to serve my clients bigger and better, such that they continue to have aha moments that affects their revenue up and to the right.
Yeah.
So that's very important to me. And expanding the networking communities that I participate in or that I lead with just an open mind and an open heart, and continue to, when I make connections between two human beings, sometimes magic happens. And that fills what I call my love tank. That just fuels my fire.
Yeah.
So a lot more of that. Yeah.
So there's two more questions, and then we'll go into our session that we'll end it with rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Number one is sales and marketing. So yesterday we had the privilege of sitting with Clay Spitz, and we talked about
Nice.
which one comes first,
Oh,
and the debate and the war about sales and marketing. Through your journey and through the clients that you work with, how important is it to understand the marketing strategy and the marketing material and the content that is being put out, so that sales is able to do what they need to do in communicating it?
I think I'm going to answer it this way. I think it is critically important that both sales and marketing understand the roles and goals of each other, and that at the leadership sales and marketing leaders, there must be a consistent, healthy tension of communication. Because commonly, if you're the marketing leader and I'm the sales leader, commonly, not always, but typically, me and my team are going to complain to you about the quality of leads that you're delivering to us. So that's partly we've got to accept responsibility to make sure we're coming to you saying, here's what we're seeing in the market. Here are prospects and customers that you can talk to. And you've got to be coming to us saying, these are the prospects and customers that we're talking to, and here's what they're saying, and here's the marketing material that we're building. There's got to be, I think it's both. Both have got to be responsible and accountable for consistent communication. Otherwise, I've got a client where this is exact scenario is going on. Well, they have different definitions of what is a lead. And my coaching is, let's sit down at the table. That's where you start. What is a lead? Is it just a person who clicks submit something on the website and fills out a web form? Or is it what they say and who is it and all the things and how does it get and where and what is a lead? So that takes both sides to sit down and align and communicate consistently because the definition could change.
Yeah, 100%. And so...
That's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where does sales fail?
Oof, that's back to how much time do we have? Intentional action with practice and discipline. Whether you're a business development rep and you're responsible for pounding the phones to schedule appointments and you're rewarded or compensated on meetings scheduled and meetings occurred, or you're the closer, the account executive closer, or you've got the whole cycle cold to close. Consistency with process and doing, taking action, being mindful of, is my day consisting of 70% is administrative activities and only 30% is facing with prospects and clients? And is that the right ratio, or do I need to flip it? Is it 3:00 on Friday and I'm out because I know I've got whatever fun happening or family? Or am I going to stay and reach out to 10 more people via LinkedIn or make a phone call or an email or text, whatever? I think those are the things that make the difference between really the 2%ers, those that hit their quota and exceed quota and do so consistently. It's practice and discipline. Whatever your process methodology, practice discipline, and got to have good coaching.
So you touched on it. So you're not only coaching and leading, but you're also understand the importance of getting out there and networking and dealing with people. You currently are a chapter chair and leading a chapter within Landing Big Wells. You're also just started 2 other particular initiatives around building groups. Talk to me a little bit about that. One, why'd you say yes to LBW? Say yes to myself? What is it that you have taken? And because the groups that you have LBW as a chapter, but then you also have, I think, 2 other initiatives that you're working on right now, but they're different. And in different verticals, I think they're specific. So talk to me about that. Help me, because one of the things that I'm very intrigued on is making sure that people understand that networking doesn't have to be all in one place.
That's the juice right there. And that networking, the word networking is simply relationshiping, which you can do with the cashier at your grocery store when they're checking you out and they say, "Did you find everything okay?" And you can say, "I sure did. And how's your day going?" And just make some eye contact and ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, "How's your day?" "Well, I'm a 6. "Well, what would it take to get you to be a 7? "Well, I'm out of here in an hour." "Well, great. Then I won't keep you. Have a fantastic evening." In that moment, that cashier felt seen and heard, connecting with human beings. You too, you've got different threads, different networking communities that you're wanting to grow and continue. I think it's just the secret sauce. It's people I think commonly people either misunderstand the term networking or don't know how to do it. And we have a responsibility to show them by being in these different communities that it's simply relationshiping. So yes, so specific answer to your question, you asked me to lead a chapter under your community, Landing Big Whales, and I have never done something like this before. So I said,
I remember the conversation.
heck yes. Let's give it a shot. And I have grown. It's been over a year now. I was a member for a year, and now I'm approaching a year as a chapter lead or chapter chair. And I love it. And why do I love it? Because of, you mentioned the spiderweb effect, understanding your top 12, understanding the Dunbar 150. Those are things that you train and coach us on that further expand our networking and our awareness of networking. And also our meetings, it's such an authentic agenda where people can show up and feel seen and heard. And I love that. So that's Landing Big Whales over here. And over here, I'm very focused and excited about building a national trusted referral community for people that serve the cannabis industry.
Okay.
And there's a few reasons. Number one, a friend of mine who owns a few dispensaries in Ohio said to me, you know, Jen, you're very good at networking and doing these things over here. Will you come help us? I want to meet people. At some point, the state by state legislation is going to look very different.
Yeah.
So building a national community, exactly, I think is very important. A virtual community for people that are in it for the long term, long game, just like with Landing Big Whales, that want to build a trusted, sacred community to ultimately grow ourselves and grow our businesses. And we support each other. So that's very exciting. I love what happens when people realize, oh, I can go into a room, whether it's a virtual room or a physical room, with action, with intention, with a goal. And it may feel icky that first, second, or third time, but then when you have an intention, it becomes easier every single time. And I've made introductions that have led to very large transactions closing, as well as my sister marrying my brother-in-law. I mean, magic can happen. And that fills my love tank. That helps me grow when I see that juicy impact on human beings is,
That's awesome.
I love it. Thank you.
So rapid fire.
Let's do it.
If I ask you the question, who's Jen, what would you say?
Ooh, I am Jen. I am all the things, meaning I'm a mother, I'm a partner, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a dog owner, I'm a homeowner. This is something that I learned in a transformational leadership course that I'm certified in, that I'm a powerful, joyful, badass queen. That is, all of those elements are me.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
If somebody who doesn't know you asks the question, what do you do? What is it that you deliver? What would you say?
So, rapid fire, I teach trust. And people might say, trust, what does that mean? I teach leaders how to build trust between themselves and their employees through tactics and sales training and sales coaching. Because without trust, nothing matters.
So talk to me about the journey. Someone, whether it be through one of your network communities that refers you an opportunity, or you create it through one of your funnels of sources of how it comes in. You answer the phone call, you get the lead from the email, however it comes in. Talk to me about the journey. What's the experience that someone, by engaging you, they're going to experience, and what should they expect?
So it depends on the client. So there's two options. I meet my client where you at. My mother would kill me for saying that, but you get my gist. I meet you where you're at. So maybe if you are looking for just specific one-on-one coaching, that is an avenue over here. And maybe if you want a very structured program, we will do that. We will start with a connections call where I'm going to ask you, why are we talking? What gets to make this conversation such that you walk away thinking, great use of time with Jen. What do you think is in your gap? And what would, if I ask your wife and your direct reports, how would they describe you? What do you think they would say? So I'm trying to understand, are you coachable? So that's individual coaching. What I do for teams, also, I've got to have leadership buy-in, is I have a trust process. I'm very big with the word trust. I think it's foundational. I think it's table stakes. Like you say, faith and family, without it, and integrity, without it, nothing works. I feel the same way about trust. So I have a trust system, which is my more corporate package, which trust is an acronym that I take the leadership through this process, which and the T starts for what are the current trends within your organization. That's the T star for trends. Then I'm going to then turn around and do a readout, a report based on what you've shared with me. We then need to unite. Are we aligned that I'm seeing and hearing what you're saying? And then I'm going to share with you my recommended strategy, which is the curriculum of the sales training and the sales coaching. And then it's tactics, which means we literally start by calendaring and we do the tactics, and then we begin the coaching and the training sessions. So that's the trust corporate package. That's the experience. The overall end result, two things. Awareness. The more aware the leaders are, the better they engender trust. And between that, with leaders and with sales teams, the sales revenue number will go up and to the right. I see it time and time again.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I think one of the biggest things, and before I get to the next question, because that was just awesome, is that I find that that question in itself is what most people would consider as like a one-on-one question. Not often asked, by the way. I've come to realize but the reason that it's important for me, especially when you're getting to know someone or you're having a one-on-one, or what we call in our community, H to H.
Human to human.
Yeah.
Love it.
Is when someone's able to articulate from start to finish the journey in detail.
Excuse me.
That's the type of person I want to work with. It's the person who doesn't know what that journey is supposed to be like. That I have you're given insight is, have they really committed to the process? And I don't think that that's something that most people are conscious of. So I'm saying all this because I'm grateful for what you just shared, because I heard it. I know the audience heard it, and it only builds trust in who and what you are. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Love that we caught that. It was on film too. Last question. We're 12 months in the future. It happens to be tomorrow.
Okay.
Describe it to me of what's present in your life as if it's tomorrow.
The first thing that just came up is both my kids are out of the house. So we're in flow right now, but they are out of the house. One is in college and one is doing whatever he gets or wants or needs to be doing out of my house. The second thing is I am blessed to enjoy Backroads every year. There's a program called Backroads, that's the name of the company, and they provide 5-7 day backpacking trips across North America, different countries in Europe, South America, and it's a very spoon-fed, fantastic experience in which every day you can hike 3, 5, or 10 miles, or whitewater rafting, or bicycling, or a combination thereof. And I've been on that one time in Europe, in Italy, and it was an amazing experience. So I want to be able to do that, not with my kids, but myself.
Yeah.
Or with a friend. But so those are two personal things that were very present. Love to travel. And then my clients continue to actively engage me because they're getting such great results. That fills my cup. That's impact. They get an impact from me, which is, in turn does impact me. Their impact impacts me. Those are the three things. Yeah.
Do you know why I asked the question?
Tell me why.
Because it's not present. And now I know what I have to be and who I have to be for you to help you get there.
You want to go on Backroads?
Telling you,
I love it.
It's at the end of the day, it's like, if that's a goal and mission, then
Thank you.
What do I have to do in order to create that extra opportunity, that extra connection, that extra relationship, so that that ends up being the conduit to be able to create sales, to create revenue, so that those trips, those moments, the impact can be present.
Oh, I receive. Thank you.
I thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the time. And I want to take this moment to say thank you for trusting in me and trusting in our relationship. We took about a year before we actually said, let's get involved within the LBW community. And I want to say that I'm grateful for that process. I'm grateful that even at the tough moments and the moments of that are like, what direction? You still believe in the root reason of why we're here. And I'm eternally grateful. So just want to say thank you.
It's you. It's the community that you attract too. So received. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was a blast.